Well, Rochester is done for the year, which brings us to the next question with them. What is next for Isak Rosén and Jiri Kulich? That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, a lot to get to on today's show. Sneaky Joe DiBiase joining you, of course, today. We have got some questions revolving around the Rochester Americans to get to, including their head coach, who's on his way to Buffalo, and maybe two prospects that could also be on their way to Buffalo as well. All of that coming up. If you want to get your take in on the show, ask a question, or get some news updates along the way, be sure to sign up for our text line. If you're not already a subscriber, you could do that by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres to sign up. We got some playoff talk to get to today as well. There is one individual that is just making Sabre fans really want him, that is playing in the playoffs right now, that I think is a real possibility for the Sabres this offseason. And he is a storyline right now in Sam Bennett. That Bruins and Panthers series is something else. I got a little bit to say on that a little bit later on in today's show. But before we do any of that, got to pass along the news of today, which does relate to the Amerks. So the Amerks fall on Friday, Game 5 against the Syracuse Crunch. Winner take all. Winner goes on to the next round. Loser goes home. They got to host the game. They earned that throughout the regular season. And they fall by a score of 5-2, where they only generated 18 shots on goal. Now, I talked to Seth Appert on Friday on my show on WGR. And one thing that I found interesting about what he said about their comeback in Game 4, where they were down by 3 in the third period, was he doesn't like to push too hard to force a comeback. He said one of the keys to coming back in a game is let's keep them at their number. It is easier to come back in this game if we keep them at their number. That worked in Game 4. It didn't really work in Game 5. One, they didn't keep Syracuse at their number. They were only down 1 going into the third. But then you got those 2 goals in the about 5 minutes in to or about 15 minutes in, I should say, to the third period. But they played a lot of that third down 1 and then a minute or 2 down 2. And you look at it, and I thought to myself, well, they're really not generating a lot of shots in this game. But that's kind of what the coach said earlier in the day was, let's keep them at their number. And they weren't able to do that. They didn't generate a lot of chances. 18 shots on goal. It was a low-event game. I mean, Syracuse only had 20 shots on their own. And I thought we'll talk a lot about Jiri Kulich and Isak Rosén today. I thought that the prospects for the Sabres just didn't look all that dangerous. It looked like Syracuse, who is an older, more experienced AHL team, took a lot of space away from them. And it reminded me of the conference finals last year where Rochester lost to Hershey, kind of the same style where Hershey's a bigger, older team, take the space away, and we're going to smother your prospects, your young guys, and take them out of the series. And I thought that happened a lot, especially in this Game 5. Ryan Johnson, I thought, had a really rough night. Nikita Novikov, I didn't think had a very strong night either. Those are 2 of their younger blue liners. We'll talk more about Kulik and Rosen. Novikov and Johnson, by the way, like they're relied upon to be top 4 defensemen on that Rochester team. Novikov, I will say this, though. After his season, maybe we'll talk a little more about him throughout the summer, but he's not ever going to be like the main subject point of an episode here. But so quickly on Novikov, 6th-round pick a couple of years ago by the Sabres, 6th-round pick in 2021. In fact, that was a draft. That is the Rosen draft. They had so many picks He was their 9th draft pick. Their 9th draft pick out of 10 that year. And part of that was no one knew if he was going to come over from Russia. Maybe I had seen some prospect analysts break down that if you knew for sure Novikov was going to come over, then he would have been a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. And he goes in the 6th. And I think he looks very strong for his first pro season in North America. I would project right now that he is going to be on the Sabres one day. Not next year, but I think someday he is going to be on their blue line. That's how well I think his development is going. Otherwise, though, tough, right? You wanted another deep playoff run. You wanted it for Devin Levi. Devin Levi was incredible. I think he was the only reason they were really even in that series. I thought the Amerks were outplayed in almost every single game, but they had a hot goalie. And Levi, in this game, 4 goals allowed on 20 shots wasn't his strongest effort. But he was incredible throughout the postseason in general. And you can't blame him for them not winning that series at all. So Appert, spins that success in Rochester into a promotion. He is going to be the assistant head coach for Lindy Ruff on the Sabres. Matt Ellis and Mike Bales are retained as assistant coaches, but they are going to kick upstairs. They are not going to be on the bench. They are going to be like in-game, management, it looks like, up in the press box. I say good, right? I think Matt Ellis, I think it's not quite charity, although it kind of is charity. I think that he's a guy who played for the team forever and has been in the community. They want to give him a job, so there's a job. No answer whatsoever on the power play this year. They had a great power play last year that he was in charge of, and then when opposing teams threw an extra wrinkle at him, which was taking Tage Thompson away, he had no answer to figure that out on the power play this year. So I am very happy to see him off of the bench and his duties hopefully reduced from last year. Appert, I like going to the bench. And I've seen a lot of this take out there, and I don't think it's that far off. I think it could be true. Appert combined with Lindy Ruff at 64 years old on only a 2-year contract. Is it possible that Appert could be their next head coach? And I do think that's possible. I might not project it'll only be 2 years, but if after 2 years it's gone well and the Sabres have broken the playoff drought and Lindy says, all right, my job is done. I wanted to get this team back on track. We made it to the playoffs. I'm 66 years old. I feel like this team's in better hands. I will retire. I will play some golf, hang out on the beach. I'm done. If Lindy does that after 2 years, then Appert, right there in waiting, on the bench, 51 years old, ready to go. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's a long period of time before that could happen and things can change. The team would have to have some success, I think, along the way as well. But I do think Appert going to the Sabres bench helps him along in his, hope to become a future NHL head coach. I also think that it could help him get a job before the Sabres would ever even offer it to him. Because if Lindy says, I want to do another 2 years, 66, I'm still good. I still feel good. I got some energy. I want to go again. And Lindy comes back for 2 more years. Appert could very well get a head coaching job. He was being mentioned by Mike Morial out in New Jersey as a potential candidate for the Devils job. Sounds like the Devils are zeroing in on Sheldon Keefe, the former Leafs coach. But Appert getting some NHL experience on the bench as an assistant could help his candidacy to become an NHL head coach somewhere else if that were to come up for him sooner than Buffalo would. But I've always liked Appert as the Amerks coach. I was someone that used to get into fights with people about Chris Taylor, the previous Amerks head coach, who had some good team success with the Amerks, some team success, nothing crazy. And he was always given this credit for being such a good coach in Rochester. And I don't doubt that he was a good coach, but my number one priority for an AHL head coach, if I'm an NHL organization, is can you take my top young players, mature them, develop them so that they can take the next step to the NHL level? That is your number one job above all else, above even the team success, I would say that is priority number one. Whether that's said out loud or not is maybe a little bit different, but that's got to be priority number one. And during Taylor's time as Amerks head coach, go look at the guys that came through Rochester and then took the next step to becoming an NHL player. Now, to be fair, you could argue Taylor didn't have any good prospects. That's defensible, which is why I might be willing to say, I wouldn't say Taylor was bad at player development for prospects. I would say we don't know if he was good or not at it because I don't know how many chances he got at it. Their top draft picks, Sam Reinhart, never played in the AHL. Jack Eichel never played in the AHL. But there were some other guys, right? Alex Nylander. Never took steps. Brendan Gooley as a defenseman that we once upon a time thought was going to be an NHL player. That did not materialize. The only guy that really came through Taylor in Rochester in the previous regime that took that next step to becoming an NHL player was Victor Olofsson. And I've said this over the years many times. Victor Olofsson didn't develop a single thing in his game. By the moment he stepped on North American ice in Rochester 6 years ago to the day he played his final game with the Sabres, he showed up as a guy with an elite shot and not much else. He left as a guy with an elite shot and nothing else. So I don't even want to give him credit for that. Meanwhile, look at Appert. Again, Appert maybe had better prospects and has got his hands on them, but Appert's done a phenomenal job. Appert developing Matthias Samuelsson into an NHL player. You could argue that Ryan Johnson is someone that's taken steps under Appert, but he's someone that came through Rochester and looks like he's going to be a real NHL player. Of course, Jack Quinn, JJ Peterka, both went through Rochester. Both look like bona fide top six wingers in the NHL for a long time to come. You could argue the two guys now are on their way, but I'm not going to give them credit for those just yet because they're not here yet. Isak Rosén and Jiri Kulich. But I've got a nice little healthy list of prospects that have came through Rochester with Seth Appert and look like they're going to be difference makers at the NHL level. So I love the job he did. Came from a development background, had some team success while balancing that with the prospects as well. The only thing I don't like is I think he could have cost them a potential trip to the finals if he had played Matt Savoy more in the conference finals last year. They benched him for that game for seventh defenseman. I don't know why they were playing seven defensemen the whole time. So there was some game management stuff that I thought was ridiculous last year during the conference finals. But other than that, I thought he did a great job over the years in Rochester, and I look forward to seeing him as an assistant coach for the Sabres. And hey, maybe the next head coach of the Sabres after Lindy Ruff is done, whenever that may be. What about Jiri Kulich and Isak Rosén? We know what's next for Appert. What's next for those two? Is it the Sabres? We'll come back with that here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented here on the show by Policygenius. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. Saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts on hand to help you talk through it. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back to the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase and making us your first listen every day. Are you watching ESPN or Fox Sports all day and are sick of all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for your every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the yelling. Locked On Sports Today brings you the canvas analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Joe DiBiase here on the show. I know what you're already saying in the comments, I'm sure. Get over it. with the Matt Savoy thing last year for Rochester. I am telling you right now that is one thing it's a little thing that I might never, ever get over because I just could not believe the arguments that I was hearing about why they did it. It was the most psychotic stuff I've ever heard in my life and still is. Anyways, Jiri Kulich, Isak Rosén. Let's get back to some things that matter. These two had very strong years in Rochester on the overall. Kulich, similar numbers to what he had the previous season. This year, 57 games played, 27 goals, 45 points. And a lot of these goals are the types of goals the Sabres were missing on their power play this year. Kulich, from his office on the right wing, he's got that release. He's got that one-timer, that feel for where to navigate in those pockets on the power play. I liked some things that I saw improvement-wise from his two-way game. I still think he has a ways to go in that department, but I do think he improved in that area as well in the amount of action that I got to see him. Now, the problem, and I will include Rosén in this, Rosén, who also had a good year. He took a bigger step up in terms of his production. He goes from 37 points last year to 50 points this year. 20 goals, 30 assists, 50 points in 67 games played for Isak Rosén. Rosén had 2 goals in 5 playoff games. Kulich did not have any. 2 assists, no goals. Both, I would say, definitely took a step back when it came to the playoffs. Now, Kulich, that was a little strange because last year he had 7 goals, 11 assists, 7 goals, 11 points in 12 playoff games. So if you just look at the numbers, you'll go, well, what happened to him? Last year, he was such a consistent playoff performer. This year, didn't show up. Last year, he did not score in the conference finals, and Hershey had their way with him. They did not allow him to beat them. They did not allow him many chances at all. I talked about earlier, that big physical style that the Bears played last year was similar to what the Crunch played this year, and it helped take Kulich out of the game. So that is something he's going to need to improve upon, is when those teams that are a little lean on you a little bit more, are wanting to take all that space away, what are you going to do to counteract that? Because I've got 2 playoff series now in 2 years that show that he can be taken out of the game and he could disappear. And Rosén, I would say basically the same thing in these 2 playoff series, that he's smaller by nature. Rosén even more than Kulich by about 15 pounds. And I just didn't like his series a ton. I thought he made a little bit more of a difference in his own end than Kulich did. But I look at these 2 players and see, okay, you had good regular seasons, playoffs. I really just wish you had better playoffs that could carry that momentum into the offseason and then maybe make the team next year. Because what's next for these guys? Rosén has now completed 4 years of development since he has been drafted. He was drafted in 2021. He is now 21 years old. It's go time, baby. Come on. It's time to make the league. If he does not make the NHL in his 4th year since being drafted, I have serious concern about whether he'll ever be an NHL player. That's Rosén. Now, Kulich is 1 year younger, and I don't have much doubt that he'll be an NHL player. I think his shot and his offensive ability is just a little too good for him to not at least make the league, let alone potentially become a difference maker. One comparison, by the way, that will give you a little more positive hope for these 2. When you look back at the previous duo of prospects that Seth Appert had before Kulich and Rosen, Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka. Look at their seasons under Appert and their youth and their physicality. Quinn, a little bit different than Peterka. Peterka had an amazing season in Rochester, point-a-game player, and then went to the playoffs and was awesome. Over a point a game in the playoffs, 7 goals in 10 games when Peterka played in the playoffs. Quinn, though, disappeared. No goals, 2 assists in his 10 playoff games in 2022. But then he showed up to the NHL and he was perfectly fine. Took the step, and he's going to be a top 6 player for a long time. Maybe that's Rosén. Maybe that is also Kulich. That would be the hope. In my opinion, one of these two guys has got to make the team next year. And I would put Rosén at the top of the list because he is a year older and it's time to go for him. Kulich, I think you could put him in Rochester another half a season, maybe call him up midway through the year, a la Drew Stafford in 07. And he ends up earning a job that way. Rosén, though, I think you really want to see him go to the offseason, put on more weight, get stronger. He's already a silky smooth player. He's already improved in his defensive game. I think he can play in the bottom 6 in that way. But you got to get bigger. You got to get stronger. You got to be someone that's going to show up to training camp and be ready to win a spot. That's where I'm at with Isak Rosén. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's outranked. I think the Sabres proved by keeping Zach Benson all year long that they will just keep the best player. Prospect timelines, maybe it's a tiebreaker. But Benson stayed. Benson earned it. They kept Benson. And if they show up to camp next year, my opinion is that Rosén would get outplayed by Jiri Kulich and Matt Savoy. And they're not keeping all 3 of those guys. They are keeping, I bet, 1 total. That'd be my bet right now. They'll keep 1 of those 3. And what are Rosén's odds of beating out Kulich and Savoy? I think they're lower than 50-50. I'll say that. So, he's the guy I'm trying to trade. All off season, if you hear me do mock trades or think up trade ideas for other teams, he is the guy I'm going to be including because I think he's just outranked. I think the Sabres have, as many would rank, the best prospect pool in the league. And that doesn't even have to be that much of a criticism of Rosén. He could be a bottom 6 player for a long time, and that's not a bust for a mid-first round pick. I just don't know where the spot is on this team for him if he's got star-level prospects above him. So I'm going to be trying to trade him all off season, and I hope the Sabres will be looking for, the Rosén and a first-round pick for your really good top 6 player. That is, to me, the perfect trade, but you're going to have to find someone that's interested in his services that has a roster spot available for him to step right into the league immediately. I like putting him on Vegas because Vegas is way over the cap. They need cheap labor. He is that for them. Can play in their bottom 6 for less than $1 million. Vegas is the guy I'm going to be trying to put him on all offseason. Kulich, I think Kulich might be the guy that makes the team next year over Savoy, and I think over Rosén too. When we come back, we'll wrap things up. The series between Florida and Boston. Craziness. And why Sam Bennett might be the perfect player for the Sabres this offseason. That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning formula is what helps. It's the formula for winning championships. Keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors, everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part's guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive. ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Final segment here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. The best series, maybe not the best series, but the most entertaining series, maybe the most fiery series, that's definitely true, in these playoffs so far, has been the Panthers and the Bruins. And I got a couple of thoughts on this series. One, Sam Bennett should have been suspended. Absolutely. No doubt Sam Bennett should have been suspended. But he wasn't. He punched Brad Marchand in the face, which I would call a sucker punch. And he saw Marchand coming. Sure, the hit was going to be late. He took his hand, his fist, that had his stick in it, and he jabbed him. It was a punch to the face. And he doesn't get suspended. Now, curiously, and there's a lot of stuff going on this afternoon about this, the Bruins said, Don Sweeney, the GM, came out and talked today and said that the Bruins had not been shown the alternate angle by the league that showed Bennett punching Marchand until right before Game 4. Very conspicuous. Very sneaky, I may say. Why did the league not make that replay available until right before Game 4? Because by then, it's, I think, too late to suspend him. Now, Emily Kaplan has some further reporting on this. She says, talk to several people in the league about the Bennett-Marchand play. The NHL also didn't see the reverse angle until Sunday. But it didn't change how player safety saw it, not as a sucker punch, but as a hockey play with two players engaged. That, to me, is the biggest load of crap that I have ever heard. One, how did you not see the replay until Sunday? The play happened on Friday. Tells me you weren't looking at it very hard. And that doesn't surprise me for a player safety department that is often, you wonder if they even exist sometimes. So then they say, oh, that's not how we saw it. Two players engaged. That is covering your own ass. Because I don't know how you could watch that play and not see a sucker punch. He punched him. Come on. It's not rocket science. I'm not even saying I hate it, by the way. I kind of loved it. I hate Brad Marchand. I've hated Brad Marchand my entire life as a hockey fan. I hate the Boston Bruins. Boston sports fans keep crying. I do enjoy that part of it. But even me, I am as biased as you can imagine. Put me in charge of player safety, and I will want to rule against the Bruins every single time I get the opportunity. But I'll tell you this, I wouldn't have ruled against them on this one because they're in the right. And I hate saying that. I hate saying Boston's in the right on this one. But of course they are. Of course they are. Bennett punched him in the jaw. That's a suspension. And on top of that, there's Sam Bennett cross-checking Charlie Coyle into the goaltender and scoring the game-tying goal in Game 4, which, of course, got reviewed somehow. I don't know how that one didn't get reversed either. So, good on you, Sam Bennett. You're in the heads of Boston sports fans this morning. My feeling on that is that all the crying and complaining that you're seeing from Boston fans right now, sure, on some level, it's Bennett punched your captain in the face and got away with it. Bennett shoved a guy into your goaltender, scored, and got away with it. But I think there's a deeper thing happening here because not only are the Bruins down 3-1 in this series, they've been dominated in this series. They are not even close to as good as the Florida Panthers are. It's not even close. The only reason Boston has even had a shot in the series is because Jeremy Swayman has stood on his head in goal. That's the only reason. Otherwise, this would have been a sweep, and I think an easy one. So, look at the Bruins fans. What are they doing right now? They are unable to accept that the Panthers are now the Bruins. The Panthers are the team that are going to bully you around while they're kicking your ass. That's what the Bruins used to be. And Bruins fans right now are watching this series and going, oh no, Florida is what we've always been. We're no longer that team. We are no longer Chara and Lucic and Marchand and Bergeron. We're and Nathan Horton, if you want to go that far back. We are not the team anymore that is going to strike the living fear of you-know-what into you while we're beating you 4-1. They're not that team anymore. Florida is. Florida's that team. They are built like the bully Bruins of the 2010s. That's who Florida is. And the Bruins are going to be way behind. I think you are seeing the beginning of the end for Boston. Maybe I was early, right? Dr. Burry in the movie The Big Short, who's a real person, by the way, who predicted the stock market crash in 2008, the mortgage crisis. He has a line in that movie. I may have been early, but I'm not wrong. That's how I feel right now about the Bruins. I may have been early predicting their demise, but I don't think I'm wrong. I think we're seeing a team right now that is not what they've used to be. They used to be every year a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, and you are seeing a team right now that is way worse than the class of the division, which is Florida. And maybe they'll get even worse and worse as it goes forward. So All that's happening. Bennett, though, as we've talked about, he's the center of all this. He is public enemy number one in Boston, Massachusetts today. Is there a player that is more perfect in the league right now for what Sabre fans would want and for who makes sense for the Sabres roster and that they could get than Sam Bennett? Is there not a trade that is just no more perfect for the Sabres this summer than getting Sam Bennett off of Florida? Because Florida, kind of like Vegas, they got guys to pay. They've got a cap crunch, and they've got Sam Reinhart, who just was second in the league in goals, needing a new contract. They've got, they could want to sign Tarasenko, but that was supposed to be a rental. They've got to sign Anton Lundell to a new contract. They've got to sign Brandon Montour to a new contract. They just signed Gustav Forsling. That contract kicks in next year. They could sign Ekman Larsson, but they might let him walk. They've got a lot of big contracts to give out and not a lot of money to do it with. Sam Bennett has 1 year left at $4.4 million at 27 years old. And he has, very important here for the Sabres in this conversation, no trade protection. Not a no movement clause, not a no trade clause, not a 5-team list that he can't, nothing. He could be traded anywhere at any time. How do you not go for that guy? Would he not just be the absolute perfect third line center for the Buffalo Sabres? He would give you that attitude in the bottom six, that physicality in the bottom six. He gives you crazy good speed as well. He's not a physical, not like a big player. He's average size, but he's got the tenacity that you want. And he doesn't get pushed around. He's 6'1", 195. Like, he's not a monster, but he doesn't get pushed around at all. He has 3 consecutive seasons of 40-plus points. 2 of the last 3 years, he's had 20 goals. And the second year he would have had 20 goals. He had 16 in 63 games had he played the whole year. Penalty kills, wins faceoffs. This year, actually, scratch that. I think I thought that about him, and I went and looked it up and remembered that he's not as good at faceoffs as you think. But still, whatever. He's a center. It's not like he's bad. He's like horrible at them, like worse in the league. He's going to throw his body around. He's going to be your shutdown center. He's going to be a defensive guy, and you could get him. You can get him. What? Is that the trade? Isak Rosén in a first? I might only go to a first if I know for sure I'm going to sign him. Like, can I call Bennett? And make sure, like, are you going to sign here? Because I want to sign you, and we'll give you above a home. We'll give you a big price when it comes to the contract, because we know we're Buffalo and we know we've got to overpay some guys. So, if we think you're only worth $5 million, we'll give you $6 million. Or if you think you're only worth $4.5 million, then we'll give you $5.5 million. Maybe that's the deal the Sabres would make with him. Evolving Hockey, by the way, gives them a 76 overall for overall percentile, 76 on offense, 72 on defense. He's got really good advanced numbers as well. And if he's going to live in the heads of Bruins fans, that's a nice, sweet little cherry on top for Sabre fans. So go get Sam Bennett, Kevin Adams, this summer. Maybe after he wins the Stanley Cup, by the way. Because I think Florida is, right now, that looks like the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. A lot more to get to. We'll start diving through the Sabres roster more and more in the coming days. We'll look through the top 6. How the season went for JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn will be something we'll tackle this week, among other things. So thanks for listening here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. If you want to chime in on the show, be sure to text us. If you're not already a texter, go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. Thanks for listening to the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.